Early brain trauma, particularly in the frontal lobes, is one of the key factors that contributes to the development of severe behavioral dysregulation. The most significant abnormalities are often found in the orbitofrontal cortex, the region responsible for evaluating consequences, regulating impulses, and navigating social behavior. When this area is damaged, individuals may lose the ability to recognize boundaries, experience diminished fear of punishment, and struggle to learn from personal experience. This disrupts the link between emotional processing and rational decision-making, distorting judgment. Additionally, such trauma impairs the integration between the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system, leaving individuals more susceptible to sudden emotional outbursts and a reduced ability to self-regulate. In my practice, I once encountered a striking case of an individual exhibiting these neurophysiological impairments. He later became responsible for a series of deliberate and highly structured, harmful acts against others, each echoing the previous one in form and intent. Raised in an extremely unstable environment, he suffered a serious traumatic brain injury in early childhood, followed by persistent emotional humiliation, ridicule, and harsh disciplinary treatment. His mother undermined any sense of safety, while the environment around him lacked moral structure or consistency. As a result, he developed a pathological response to frustration. When faced with emotional discomfort, his brain defaulted to primitive, pre-rational defense mechanisms. Over time, this misdirected energy was externalized, and his actions followed deeply ingrained patterns formed early in life. His brain processed social cues differently from neurotypical individuals, which may explain his lack of fear or recognition of consequences. What made him especially difficult to identify was his high level of environmental adaptation and social masking. He often appeared cooperative, polite, and compliant with investigators, creating a deceptive image of harmlessness. Yet outside formal settings, he continued engaging in behaviors that were profoundly destructive to others. The turning point came when, during one interview, he inadvertently described details that only someone directly involved could have known. That narrative error became the catalyst. His brain, unable to sustain falsehoods over time, revealed the truth. It wasn't forensic evidence or physical traces that exposed him. It was the neuropsychological pattern, the unmistakable mental signature shaped by a childhood interwoven with biological damage. Building a psychological profile requires immersion in a vast amount of data. Paradoxically, the life story of a person often becomes clearest through the footprint left by their most disturbing actions. These actions, carefully structured and often devoid of empathy, mirror the internal architecture of the mind. And again, we find ourselves tracing everything back to childhood. The more profiles I construct of individuals who've inflicted serious harm on others, the more I find myself agreeing with Freud. The roots of deviation often originate in the earliest years, preschool age even. Something happens, often quietly, without visible signs, and a person is nudged off course. Without intervention, that deviation solidifies and becomes the foundation for much darker trajectories. Lately, I find myself deeply preoccupied with how childhood shapes the adult brain. Many children display minor cruelty during development. It can be a normal phase, but if these tendencies don't fade and are instead reinforced by environment or neurophysiological instability, we see the formation of individuals with extreme socially destructive behavior. These reflections were intensified when I came across a remarkable scientific project, World of Geniuses, while reviewing new material online. The project truly impressed me. Their approach to studying the developing brain is uniquely comprehensive, grounded in neuroscience, rather than standard cognitive testing. It looks beyond surface metrics and into the structure of thought itself. One of their standout contributions is the quantum G test, not an IQ test in the traditional sense, but an interactive, game-based tool designed to identify how a child's brain processes information. When I discovered this project, I dove into the research and was genuinely moved. Their method looks not at outcomes, but at the underlying pathways of cognition. And that resonated deeply with me, because I keep returning to the same question. When exactly does something go wrong? At what moment does a child's development deviate from its natural course? Why, despite our advances in AI, neuroscience, and digital systems, have we still not addressed the rising tide of extreme behavioral issues? Yes, artificial intelligence is evolving rapidly, but AI works with existing data. It can analyze and reorganize, but it cannot create from nothing. True breakthroughs still come from the human mind. We used to believe that geniuses were born once in a century, but we were wrong. Scientific evidence now confirms that extraordinary potential is present in every child. Without proper support, however, creativity declines and potential remains untapped. And I keep asking myself, in a world filled with people, why are we not seeing millions of actualized geniuses, but instead a rise in harmful behavioral patterns? This is why I strongly align with the mission behind World of Geniuses. I've seen firsthand how different lives might have been if a child's innate brilliance had been nurtured rather than ignored. I truly hope that one day the volume of my work will diminish in direct proportion to the number of children whose minds were guided toward positive, constructive paths. That's why this initiative struck such a chord with me. Although the project is still in beta, the Quantum G test currently focuses only on identifying areas of cognitive strength. The full educational platform is scheduled for release in 2030. Still, the fact that something like this exists is already a sign of hope. And what touched me most was that the call to open beta access didn't come from the developers, it came from parents. That alone tells me not all is lost.